Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Valley Now. Again, I'm your host, Eric Little. Thank you for joining us. Let's rejoin our conversation about Veritas Classical Academy with Ben Rutherford and Kadeen Ritter. One of the things that you guys are known for is clustering grades, and I want to turn back to Mr. Rutherford and ask about that. Why are grades clustered in terms of, and maybe you could be in a class with first graders, second graders, third graders, students from what traditional schools would call grades?
Well, they offer us a number of advantages. The biggest drawback is that it's very difficult on the teacher. They've got two separate age groups in the same classroom at the same time. So we do two separate types of instruction. One is a differentiated instruction, and one is multi-level instruction. So differentiated would be is that you're teaching the same subject, but maybe you would be administering different work. So my 8th graders would have a different test than my 7th graders, or my 6th graders a different test than my 5th graders. The multi-level is the other side that's a little more difficult, and that is courses that typically go in lockstep with one another. So if I've got two separate math courses in the same class at the same time, then I have to start one with a separate lesson, and then once they're off and running, then I'm off to the next one to start my lesson. And then there are certain points of overlap, but it provides a number of benefits that you don't normally see. It ensures that we're a close-knit community. If our first and second graders, so my second grader, they become a third grader next year, but that second grader knows somebody in the first and second grade cluster. So there's an interconnectedness between classrooms that are intrinsically embedded in that structure. Not only that, but inside the classroom, whenever you have an older set of students, they've been in that classroom for a year already. They understand the format, they understand what the teacher is like, what their expectations are, and it provides them that opportunity to be leaders in that classroom. So there are a number of social benefits that are hidden, but there are also a number of academic benefits. When you have younger students looking up to older students, that can be an impetus for them to excel. You also have the opportunity to move between grades, so that when you show that there's proficiency in one area, they're not simply limited by that one cluster, but they can move up to the next cluster since we do a block scheduling that goes along with it. So our focus is more on proficiency and positive peers.
With that, do you see a lot of peer-to-peer tutoring?
Oh, sure. Whenever kids take off in one classroom versus another, there is a connectedness that goes along. They're willing and able to help out one another in the classroom, and that's just sort of spills over, not only in the classroom, but actually outside the classroom, even at lunchtime. Or when I was listening to our morning assembly the other day, they were saying someone was Skyping with another student to go over their sentence diagramming. So it happens not only in class, but out.
Let's talk about your faculty. Who makes up your faculty? Are these teachers that went to traditional four-year colleges and have regular degrees, master's degrees, or are these people outside the teaching profession?
Well, those two things aren't exclusive. In other words, you can go to college and still be in the teaching profession, but not end up being a major in education.
Some states it's easier than others, yeah.
Right. Our faculty are unique and gifted individuals. The standard we hold for them far exceeds any standard that I think you would find in any standardized setting within a K through 12 system. Oftentimes, teachers are siloed not only into a subject area, but also into a grade range area. Our teachers are, one, liberal artists in the fact that they understand how to listen, how to write, how to think, how to read, and how to communicate well. And they know their content exceedingly well. For us, that's sort of a prerequisite. If you're going to be able to teach across a curriculum, you need to be able or you need to be knowledgeable about how one part of the curriculum influences another portion of the curriculum. So you're not just teaching a history lesson, but you may also look at that history lesson from a moral perspective, from an ethical standpoint, saying, well, was Alcibiades a good person or was he not a good person, right? There's also the literature component that goes along with it. What was the literary work of the day and age? How were these folks expressing themselves? So the teacher that we have here is a unique individual, someone that is able to grasp that concept, but also able to communicate that concept to the students that are in front of them. We recruit in a number of places, actually all over the country. Mr. Deshita comes to us from California. Miss Gale comes to us from Utah. Actually, Katie Nestor, she comes through to us from right around here. Actually, I knew her and her mom when they were growing up in Parkersburg. So you just don't know where you're going to find these unique and gifted individuals, but it's very difficult to get them.
What is your current student-teacher ratio? What are you able to do with that?
We have a cap in each one of our classrooms. We have 12 students per grade, and on the lower grades, we have a lower student-teacher ratio just because younger kids are a little more difficult to wrangle sometimes. times. So in our pre-K classroom, we'll have really 2 teachers in there, but we'll also have an aide, either a parent or somebody else that'll be in volunteering. So with those 3 persons in there and 24 kids in the classroom, it's really about a 1-to-8 ratio. Now when you come up into first and second, that drops off to just in the morning during those times when Mrs. Nestor would be doing either differentiated instruction with math or something, or with phonics, in which case we have another person in there that helps. So that's now sort of a 1-to-12 ratio. As they move up into third and fourth, kids have started to learn what it means to be in a classroom. They understand that the manners that they're supposed to do, or the behaviors that they're supposed to be engaged in, that they need to raise their hand, that they need to stand in line quietly, that they need to do these sorts of things that we kind of take for granted. So when we hit third and fourth, it goes down to 1-to-24. So we've got 1 teacher for each of the 2 grades. Doesn't mean that there aren't still a number of volunteers that come in, and in fact there are. We count on those individuals to help kids out with their math facts, to help kids out with some of their reading. As we go up in ages, then it becomes a function of need. So for me yesterday, we were doing a fetal pig dissection. And so I've got fetal pigs out on the table. Well, I can't be at each table at the same time, but we're very fortunate that a number of our parents are gifted individuals as well. So Dr. Lather was in here yesterday, and she's like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love dissections. And so she came in and she was helping me out with the lab dissections. And so she was at one table, I was at another table, and we were exploring the anatomy of our fetal pigs.
I like that you mentioned parents and parent involvement, because I wanted to turn back to Kadeen and ask about that. One of the tenets of this school is to get the whole family's involvement. What are some of the things families are asked when their children go here?
Well, there is a 25-hour service requirement to the school. Many families exceed that. And when we ask families, are you willing and able to do that, we remind them it doesn't just have to be parents. Grandparents are welcome. Aunts and uncles are welcome. And so we have constantly throughout the day parents and grandparents and other relatives coming in and out to help support the school. Some of the things that they do include helping out at lunchtime or recess, field trips, special activities or special events, our 2 fundraisers that we have during the year. So we have many opportunities for them to assist. A lot of them, as Mr. Rutherford said, are gifted folks, and so they may come and give a special lesson. If we've got several artists, for example, they'll come and give a special lesson on a particular aspect of art or music or a particular sport that they played in college or coached themselves. So we have many opportunities for those folks to help us.
So you don't necessarily have to have a particular skill. Maybe you just have the desire to come and help out. Or if you do have a particular career area that could be carried over into a lesson, your services are wanted.
Absolutely. And it sets a great example for the students as well. There's, first of all, that comfort level for the parent or the grandparent to be able to see what their kids and grandkids are doing through the day and see them interact and get to chat with them a little bit. But it's also, from the other perspective, the child sees that parents are involved in their school and that is important to the parent.
In just a moment, we'll wrap things up with Ben Rutherford and Kadeen Ritter from Veritas Classical Academy in Marietta. But first, this break. You're listening to Mid-Ohio Valley Now.